Okay, good evening, dear students. As noted to you all, I was to send you a link. So here I am. And this reason was very simple. एक बात ऐसी हुई कि we were not able to conduct the lecture because I got a call from few of the students stating that because of unwanted rainfall and no quite certain amount of breeze, they are not able to get a proper range. So what could be done? So I found out that this is the best solution, and this is where I am today. So students, 10 CBSE students, please note we are not going to rush with the syllabus. There has been a few of the notifications which I have got, few of the messages that I've got from some of the leading schools in city. I won't reveal the name of the schools, that no schools are going to start by September. And number one. And number second, CBSE itself is going to think very clearly on what exact portions to exactly bring into and how much to reduce and how much to keep as a stagnant portion, as a stable portion for your academic year is what they're going to decide very well. So I request everybody not to be worried about anything and make sure you study with detail, study with the points being mentioned slowly, steadily. Clear everybody? Because end of the day, it's not important that you study 10 chapters, 20 chapters, 30 chapters. It's important how many chapters you have studied and how much do you know out of it. So that's going to be really, really very important. So this is the first thing that I would like to tell. And coming back to the syllabus, everybody, as noted to you all, this will be a very small clip. It won't go for more than 40-45 minutes. Okay. I'm sure we will not let it go for those minutes because as I've noted, live lecture and recording both obviously mean the same. It's going to be done by myself only, but to not to eat your head more, we'll go bit uh, with the basic thing of the lecture for today. Okay, now coming back to the lecture, I'll be sharing with you all our second part. Now students, what I'm sharing with you all is from footprints without feet. Now I'm going to share with you all it's footprints without feet. uh, just a minute everybody. Yeah, so footprints without feet come with a very simple understanding. Students, this is exactly what I was trying to tell you the previous day also. Your CBSE syllabus, your CBSE portions come with a very basic understanding, or basic understanding yahi hai that this part, which is from the footprints without feet, okay, is going to be there in the paper for a 10-mark question. Now again, as I've noted before also, that 8 marks and a 10 marks are two types of varied questions which come in the paper. 8-mark question may either one will be from footprints without feet and the other will be from flight, the first flight. From a 10-mark as well, one will be from footprints without feet and the other again will be from the first flight. So you never know that a 10-mark question will be for what and a 20 and an 8-mark question will be for what. So I request everyone to please note down into your notebooks that both the questions, both the books from your for your CBSE have to be done in depth. They have to be studied well. Okay, so make sure that this question, this topic, this book rather, will be there for either 8 or 10 marks. Do not ignore it. So write down 8 or 10 marks. Here, everybody. Yes, that's number one. Number second, my dear friends, we'll be starting with the first topic, a triumph of surgery. This parts, that is what I'm talking about here, prints without feet. ये क्वेश्चंस ना एसएससी बोर्ड में भी आते थे पहले. दिस यूज्ड टू बी देयर इन द एसएससी बोर्ड आल्सो बिफोर, बट एज अ पार्ट ऑफ a rapid reading question. But for CBSE, they don't have a rapid reading part. They directly have a 10-mark answer. And mark it. 10-mark answer, 8 marks answer may possibility of losing marks is more because the depth of the answer is quite uncertain. You want to write page, 1 page, 2 pages, maybe quality, what exact points are needed, how you have to frame an answer, but still mark it. No student, max to max can be 8. Okay. So prepare for the worst and prepare for the best as well, because your attempt is to try and make the best out of it. Of course, the results are not in your hand. The first chapter that we'll be doing today is the triumph of surgery. So the first chapter that we'll be doing today is the triumph of surgery. Okay, and the triumph of surgery, this topic, okay, you can give this topic a total of, you can give this topic a total of 4 stars. So this topic deserves a exact 4 stars. Okay, number one. Number second, at the same time, make sure that what exactly would be there in the topic will be going for it. This Tricky, a small dog is pampered and overfed. Tricky, a small dog is pampered and overfed by his rich mistress. Now, what is the meaning of mistress? Mistress is the one who's actually unmarried. Okay. So you can say the girl who's unmarried, the lady who's unmarried but is extremely rich. So she's an extremely rich, she's a very rich woman, and that is the reason why she's obviously pampering the dog. She's obviously pampering the dog like her son, like her daughter. He seriously falls ill and his mistress consults a veterinary surgeon. Does he perform an operation? Does the dog recover? So obviously, you when the for the animals you got to go to the vets. I was really worried about Tricky this time. I had pulled up my car when I saw him in the street with his mistress, and I was shocked at his appearance. He had become hugely fat, like a bloated sausage, and a leg at each corner. So, what is this saying over here clearly? He was hugely fat and like a bloated sausage, like a bloated sausage. What is the meaning of bloat? Bloat is to something which balloons up. Okay, so someone who's not just fat, who's bloated up, म्हणजे जिसको हम लोग मराठी में कहते हैं तो फुगल्यासारखा दिसत होता. Okay, with a leg at each corner. Sausage. Sausages, you know, everybody, it's like a cylindrical in shape, specifically offered for breakfast in foreign countries. So that's called as sausages. His eyes, bloodshot and humane, started straight ahead, and his tongue lolled from his jaws. Lolled from his jaws म्हणजे ज्या लोकांना, people generally who are fat, people generally who are obese, these people are not able to breathe properly, and as they are not able to breathe properly, they generally are looking for breath, so they are always short of breath. That is the reason why his tongue was out. He was trying to breathe from his mouth as well. Mrs. Pumphrey hastened to explain. He was so listless. Mr. Heroit, he seemed to have no energy. Okay, I thought he must be suffering from malnutrition, so I have been giving him some little extras between meals to build him up. Small malt and cod liver oil and a bowl of Horlicks at night to make him sleep. Nothing much really. She says तिला असं वाटतं maybe something is wrong with the dog, and that's why she's giving him good meals, is what she says. In between the meals also she's giving him some good snacks to eat. But unfortunately the snacks which she's giving, okay, uh, this is making Tricky fat, and instead of giving the right amount of nutrition. It's a human tendency also, you know. You don't eat much, you eat in right proportion and right nutrition. That's what is needed. And did you cut down on sweet things as I told you? Oh, I did for a bit. Okay, I did for a bit. But he seemed to be so big that I had to relent. I had to stop myself, but to give him sweet again. Okay. He does love ice cream. He does love cream cakes and chocolate. So I can't bear to refuse him. So obviously, like a pampered dog that he's being pampered by Tricky as well. I looked down again at the little dog. That was the trouble. Tricky's only fault was greed. He had never been known to refuse food. He would tackle a meal at any hour of the day or night, and I wondered about all the things Mrs. Pumphrey hadn't mentioned. So doctor is asking Mrs. Pumphrey, the mistress, that uh, I hope you are keeping Tricky on a good diet, and if so, I really request you to please let me know what all she's having throughout the day. Because looking at her condition, I suppose that she's been eating too much, and that is the reason why she's put on an extra amount of extra pounds over there. Are you giving him plenty of exercise? Well, he has little walks with me, as you can see. But Hodgkin, the gardener, has been down with lumbago, so there has been no ring throwing lately. So ring throwing is the thing. It's a playful activity which dogs really love. Okay, let's go further now. What happens now? I tried to sound severe. Now I really mean this. Now I really mean this. If you don't cut his food right down and give him more exercise, he is going to be really ill. You must harden your heart and keep him on a very strict diet. You must harden your heart. What does this mean? Harden your heart is to take some things, though you might feel pampered towards the dog. In the context of text, I'm telling everybody, you might feel a bit emotional, a bit pampering towards a dog, but you need to be a bit firm as well. You need to become a bit practical. So जिसको हम लोग हिंदी में कहते हैं दिल पे पत्थर रख के बात करनी चाहिए. So this is what Tricky also has to be made behave by Mrs. Pumphrey, because at the end of the day, your emotions don't matter. What matters is the good amount and the right amount of nutrition exercise, even if that means giving a less food to Tricky, and keep him to her. Okay, I'm sorry, dog is male over here. I'm extremely sorry, and keep him on a very strict diet. Mrs. Pumphrey wrung her heads. Oh, I will, Mr. Heroit. I'm sure you're right. But it is so difficult, so very difficult. She set off, head down along the road, as if determined to put the new regime into the practice immediately. Put in the new regime. What is the meaning of to put the new regime means? to put on a new practice. Okay, so to start with a new workout or maybe something of that sort, that's called as a regime. Regime is a routine, so routine which is going to help, which would help a Tricky. That is what she believed that she would be doing the same. I watched their progress and growing concern. Tricky was tottering along in his little tweed coat. He had a whole wardrobe of these coats and for the cold weather and the raincoat for the wet days. He struggled on. He struggled on roping in his harness. I thought it wouldn't be long before I heard from Mrs. Pumphrey. The expected call came within a few days. So obviously, now this is the first visit of Mrs. Pumphrey after being visited before as well. And Mr. Pumphrey is being asked by the doctor that I hope you have been putting him on a good diet, as I told you before. So instead of that as well, she has been putting on weight. So obviously that means that Mrs. Pumphrey has been giving Puffy, has been giving Tricky something in extra, because of which he is putting on weight. And that's where the doctor Herold realizes that the day is not far when she would be getting one more call from Mrs. Pumphrey saying that I am sorry, but the dog has put on more weight. And that so happened. The expected call came within a few days. Mrs. Pumphrey was distraught. Distraught is completely shattered. She was a bit dismantled. Okay, not to be in senses is called as distraught. Tricky would eat nothing, refused even his favorite dishes, and besides, he had bouts of vomiting. Bouts of vomiting is a bit of sessions of vomiting, you can say, or you can say phases in which Tricky would vomit. That's one of the ways of dogs or even the animals to show that maybe it's the food poisoning or overeating that has caused them. Of course, they cannot talk, so these are the various signs which animals give. He spent all his time lying on the rug, panting. Panting is short of breath. Panting is to be short of breath. Didn't want to go for walks, didn't want to do anything. I had made my plans in advance. The only way was to get Tricky out of the house for a period. I suggested that he be hospitalized for about a fortnight to be kept under observation. So what happens is now Tricky is to be hospitalized for a fortnight. Fortnight is a span of 15 days for observation. The poor lady almost swooned. Almost swooned. She was completely shocked. Swooned is to be shocked. It's very simple, actually, and it's very normal also. Such a favorite dog of Mrs. Pumphrey, being the pampered one and everything. But still, unfortunately, he has to be kept into the hospital to get the right treatment to reduce his weight or something about it. So obviously, that's a sad part for Mrs. Pumphrey, and she's had to do this by keeping a stone on her heart, or with a heavy heart, she has to do this. She was sure pin he would pine and die if he did not see her every day. So what does this mean? Uh, it's obviously the doctors believe that sure he would pine and die if he did not see her every day. But I took a firm line. So doctor says that even Tricky was so used to his mistress that the doctor believed that if it might happen, that Tricky is not seeing his mistress, then obviously that would be a problem for him. That would be a genuine problem for the dog. Okay, and that is why the issue would come up. He was very sure about it, but he did not see her. As he's saying that if he did not see her every day, so even he had got so used to his mistress that unfortunately he could die, and but still the doctor had to take that good big call. But I took a firm line. Tricky was very ill, and this was the only way to save him. In fact, I thought it best to take him without delay. And and followed by Mrs. Pumphrey's wailings, I marched out to the car, the little dog wrapped in a blanket. The entire staff was roused, and maids rushed in and out, bringing his day bed, his night bed, favorite cushions, toys, and rubber rings, breakfast bowl, lunch bowl, supper bowl. Supper bowl is a food bowl, simple, okay? Supper is meal bowl, which is we call. Realizing that my car would never hold all the stuff, I started to drive away. As I moved off, Mrs. Pumphrey with a despairing cry, threw an armful of the little coats through the window. I looked in the mirror before I turned the corner of the drive. Everybody was in tears. Out on the road, I glanced down at the pathetic little animal gasping on the seat by my side. Gasping is looking for short of breath either hai or he's trying to gasp. Gasp is the dog is seeming a bit confused. I patted the head and Tricky made a brave effort to wag his tail. Poor old lad, I said, you haven't a kick in you, but I think I know a cure. So haven't a kick in you is this is one of the ways of saying कि किसी में जब जान नहीं बची यार तुझे ताकतच नाही राहिली काय तुझं पाय हलवत नाहीये what will you go further. This is called as you haven't a kick in you, but doctor says I know there's a cure for you, and obviously doctor has a cure being a doctor that he is. At the surgery the household dog surged around me. Tricky looked down at the noisy pack with dull eyes and, when put down, lay motionless on the carpet. The other dogs, after sniffing around him for a few seconds, decided he was an uninteresting object and ignored him. Ignored is one of the things which we call as rejected him, is avoided. I made up a bed for him in a warm, loose box next to the one where the other dogs slept. For 2 days, I kept an eye on him, giving him no food but plenty of water. At the end of the second, he started to show some interest in his surroundings. On the third, he began to whimper when he heard the dogs in the yard. Whimper is getting a bit excited. Okay, so whimper is to get an excited. When I opened the door, Tricky trotted out and was immediately engulfed by Joe. Engulfed is surrounded. Engulfed is to surround or to encompass by Joe, the greyhound and his friends. Greyhound is a type of a dog. Okay, greyhound is a type of a dog which comes in two breeds of hounds. Hounds are two hounds, two types of dogs. One is a bloodhound, which is a complete attacking dog. He's a very fearsome dog, and the other is a greyhound. Greyhound is typically being very friendly. Okay, he is the one who is friendlier than his partner, called as a bloodhound. Bloodhound is typically maintained by the shepherds to, along with their sheep, to avoid any sudden attack or something from a wild animal. But greyhounds are the ones who actually are very friendlier and like kind of a very beautiful dogs. Okay, and his friends, after rolling him over and thoroughly inspecting him, the dogs moved off down the garden. Tricky followed them, rolling slightly with his surplus fat. What's the meaning of surplus? Surplus is something in excess, something in extra. Okay, now later that day, I was present at the feeding time. I watched while Tristan slopped the food into the bowls. There was the usual headlong rush, followed by the sounds of high-speed eating. Every dog knew that if he fell behind the others, he was liable to have some competition for the last part of his meal. So obviously, doctor made up this plan that Tricky would have to run around here and there to make up a plan for the to make up her food or something about it. And doctor knew this. This is one of the ways in which I can make Tricky run around and make sure that she gets active. And once he gets active, it would be very easy for him to lose his weight, because that's what was needed: less food and more of exercise. When they had finished, Tricky took a walk around the shining bowls, licking casually inside to one or two of them. Next, an extra bowl was put out for him, and I was pleased to see him jostling his way towards it. From then on, his progress was rapid. Rapid is quick. He had no medical treatment. Okay, he had no medical treatment, absolutely no medical treatment, or any kind of that. He ran about with the dogs, joining in their friendly ways of friendly fights, you can say. He discovered the joys of being bowled over, tramped on, and squashed every few minutes. He became an accepted member of the gang, an unlikely silky little object among the shaggy crew. Shaggy crew is like the other dogs were, typical kind of, like how boys are, typical, very bang on, very fierce, very aggressive kind of. So other dogs were a bit like that, and in between that, it was a small little object, a small little dog, silky dog, fighting his, like a tiger for his share of at meal times and hunting rats in the old hen house at night. He had never had such a time in his life. So it was one of the ways of doctor to give him the good life. Of course, it's not that his mistress was not willing to, but obviously it is something like that. She was pampering him more and giving him less of exercise. All the while, Mrs. Pumphrey hovered anxiously in the background. Hovered is moved around. Anxiously is restlessly in the background, ringing a dozen times a day for the latest bulletins. I dodged the questions about whether his cushions were being turned regularly or his correct coat worn according to the weather, but I was able to tell her that the little fellow was out of danger and convulsing rapidly. Convulsing rapidly is showing good amount of progress and moving better rapidly. So that's called as convulsing. Next one. The word convulsing seemed to do something to Mrs. Pumphrey. She started to bring round fresh eggs, 2 dozen at a time, to build up Tricky's strength. For a happy period, my partners and I had 2 eggs each for breakfast. But when the bottles of wine began to arrive, the real possibility of situation began to dawn on the household. It was enriched Tricky's blood. Lunch became a ceremonial occasion with 2 glasses of wine before and several during the meal. Okay, we could hardly believe it when the brandy came to put a final edge on Tricky's constitution. For a few nights, the fine spirit was rolled around, inhaled, and reverently drunk. So, of course, these things were also given. This is a part of their lifestyle, and they enjoy it. There were days of deep content, starting well with the extra leg or extra egg in the morning. Okay, extra egg in the morning, improved and sustained by the midday wine, and finishing luxuriously round the fire with the brandy. It was a temptation to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest, but I knew Mrs. Pumphrey was suffering, and after a fortnight, felt compelled to phone and tell her that the little dog had recovered and was waiting collection. Compelled is force. So obviously, what happened? Doctor made up some idea to keep Tricky with him for a few days so that he could do better, and that's why this were one of the ways of giving him something which he likes, an egg extra, a wine here and there, few you can say a glass of wine here and there or something about it to keep him that happier in the space, because he wanted the dog's health to grow better. But obviously, he knew that Mrs. Pumphrey is anxious over there, and he is obviously going to get a call from Mrs. Pumphrey. So obviously, but what he did, he himself was compelled to call. Compelled is was forced himself that I'm going to call Mrs. Pumphrey. Within minutes, about 30 feet of gleaming black metal drew up outside the surgery. Black metal is a black car, a car which is black in color. The chauffeur opened the door. Chauffeur is a driver, and I could just make out the figure of Mrs. Pumphrey, almost lost in the interior. Her hands were tightly clasped in front of her. Her lips trembled. Oh, Mr. Heroit, do tell me the truth. Is he really better? Yes, it's fine. There's no need for you to get out of the car. I'll go and fetch him. I walked through the house into the garden. A mass of dogs was hurtling around and round the lawn, and in their midst, ears flapping, tails waving, was the little golden figure of Tricky. In 2 weeks, he had been transformed into a lithe, hard muscled animal. Lithe is what simple word can be: a lean, hard muscle animal. Lean is to not have any fats, but to be extremely athletic, to be extremely agile. That's called as a lithe, hard-muscled animal. He was keeping up well with the pack, stretching out in the great bounds, his chest almost brushing the ground. I carried him back along the passage into the front of the house. The chauffeur was still holding the car door open, and when Tricky saw his mistress, he took off from the arms in a tremendous leap, and sailed into Mrs. Pumphrey's lap. She gave a startled "oh" and then had to defend herself as he swarmed over her, licking her face and barking. During the excitement, I helped the chauffeur to bring out the beds, toys, cushions, coats, and bowls, none of which had been used. As the car moved away, Mrs. Pumphrey leaned out of the window, tears shone in her eyes. Her lips trembled. Oh, Mr. Herold, she cried, how can I ever thank you? This is a triumph of surgery. So, what does Mrs. Pumphrey think? Mrs. Pumphrey thinks that nothing but only Mr. Heroid has saved an animal, and he saved him by operating some sort of a surgery on by undergoing an operation on Tricky, which has made him a better dog, which has made him get rid of those rid of those fat, and get him more athletic and flexible. Now, dear students, there is a small thing. Unfortunately, at the starting, there is a small mistake from my end, and that too, it's not that grave, but there is a small mistake. Unfortunately, I've told you that mistress is someone who's unmarried, but there is also another meaning to it, that mistress is a female of a master. Okay, so here it is, a mistress is called as a master. A maiden mistress, what we call, is nothing but a lady who is maiden mistress. She's a lady, she's in a grown up age, but she's unmarried. So I just baffled a bit over that, so please make that correction. Okay, now coming back to it, the words are given along with the meaning. So the conclusion can be very simple. The conclusion is very simple rather, and the conclusion is that that the dog Tricky was completely recovered. He was all fine. He was all stable. He was all back to his best, without even a touch of a needle, without even a show of a knife, but simply by living a better life. So, dear students, this is a very simple you can say a story that we can draw from. I'm good that I'm giving an online lecture today itself. Unfortunate today it is that we have seen the death of our great actor, veteran Mr. Rishi Kapoor, and it's very unfortunate that he's passed away in this lockdown period. And I'm not joking; he was a very great actor. He was a good actor rather. Has given some great memories to me as well during my childhood. Okay, because I won't say that I've grown up watching his movies, because he's a bit uh, even in the yesteryears before I was born, he was at his prime. But yes, there are some movies which I believe that I have seen, and I don't know, but I simply like this guy. He was a very happy-go-lucky fellow. But today his death due to leukemia, due to cancer, I'm sorry. And yesterday, unfortunately, Irfan Khan died due to leukemia. And both are the two strange deaths. Both are two strange, different personalities. But unfortunately, both succumb to a rare disease, which is growing very fast these days, and that is cancer. Irfan Khan, of course, was diagnosed with leukemia. Leukemia is a form of a cancer which grows into your eye, which grows through your pupil somewhere in between the retinas and everything. It's kind of a leukemia. Okay, and at the same time, he was battling with cancer since 2018-19 around, and he passed away yesterday. In spite of being fit and quite quite healthier, but Rishi Kapoor passed away unfortunately today. You cannot exactly say that his what exactly, but he also passed because of cancer. But again, I would say that his unwanted habits like overeating, no exercise, over drinking, okay, alcohol, which is again one of the most unwanted things in our routine in our life, and no active lifestyle. That's what led to his recurring attacks of the problem that he was in. Of course, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, all this come up with exercise without exercise. So I would like to really end my lecture over here today with a simple thing that students, it's a request to everybody, whichever age you are in, make sure you're fit because nobody but your body needs you the most. Okay, number one. Number second, also I would like to state as have a good and a healthy lifestyle. I know there are a lot of temptations outside, a lot of temptations of all the food which is typically called as the junk food. I know, but at the end of the day, I would also say that these temptations are fine, but these temptations are typically like the fast food. They end up in your body fast. They satisfy your hunger fast, and at the same time, they take off your life also fast. So it's like a typical fast food, and this is a concept which originated in the foreign lands. Fast foods are not our things. Our simple things is our home cooked food. Okay, and even we do have junk food in our in our society. But that junk food is typical Indian junk food. You can definitely have at times. Kabhi vada pav khao, kabhi kachi dabeli khao, samosa kabhi. I'm sure everyone's you're smacking your lips out there, you're smacking your tongues out there. I'm sorry, but I know this is the need of an hour. You feel to have it, but still you have those things in a well controlled fashion. See to it that you do not disturb them. See to it that you do not hinder anywhere in between your regular routines. Exercise karo. Make sure that you are on your targets. Okay, maintain your body because body is your temple, and finally it's the thing that you have to live in. Okay, so on this backdrop was this first chapter, okay, from Footprints Without Feet, the triumph of surgery. Again, what is the meaning of the word triumph? Triumph means victory. Okay, so meaning of the word triumph is victory, or to be victorious over something is called as triumphant. So this is about the first chapter, that is a triumph of surgery. Now dear students, as I have been very vocal about that I will be starting a bit of grammar as well. Though you guys don't have exact do as edited questions into your paper, but still it is my complete duty to see to it that you are with it, because the basics of grammar are important for the grammar questions that you get in the paper. Like let's say for example, you never say I has been talking to people. You always say I have been talking. We always say that people have been talking to us. We don't say people has been talking. So this is the basic. I is talking, I am talking. You need to know the basics of this. So I'll be sharing with you a small grammar, I would say notes kind of thing. I request everybody to just be with me so that you'll be able to cope with it. I'll just give a brief view about it today. In the next session, I can definitely get back to you with this also. Okay. Yes. Now, coming back to this part, everyone, that is the grammar part. Okay, just let me get back to this. Wait a second. Yeah. I hope your schools are on target with the portions that we are doing, or I would say even we are on target with the portions that schools have been conducting. Make sure it's your 10th examinations though, but study safe, study slowly, आराम से पढ़ाई करो. There's no rush to be into, because end of the day, concept clear होना बहुत important है. There is no point of studying everything and nothing is clear. Okay, so coming back to this, everyone. Yeah. Uh, yeah. You can see the screen over here. I have given the important things, that is the tenses part. I have also given something called as the that is I've done the basic part, the tenses, that is types of tenses which are important, then the active and passive voice. Okay, every tense has got simple, present, and past, but every tense also in that goes through 4 categories. Then active and passive voice. What is an active and passive voice? So if I say that, if I say over here that Mr. A loves Mr. B, So, or Mrs. B, sorry, Mr. A loves Mrs. B. So this is an active voice. But if I say Mrs. B is loved by Mr. A, this is a passive voice. The same thing to be said in a differential manner, that's called as an active and a passive voice. Okay. So various rules have been formulated over here very clearly. You can ask me the doubts. I'll be sending you this to you on WhatsApp as well. Next thing is direct and indirect speech. What comes over here in the indirect and direct speech is nothing but saying the things by one person to the other is a direct speech, and then is an indirect, where is first person conveying it to the second person through third person. Your father dropping a message to you through your mom, that's called as an indirect speech. It's also called as a reported speech. So there are various rules that I've mentioned over here clearly. And then there is something called as question tag. So there are various parts of grammar. I'm sharing the screen with you. At the same time, I'll be sending it to you on WhatsApp today itself. Don't worry. But I want all of you to first watch the video. I want all of you to first listen to my video well, watch it, listen to it properly. And then once everybody replies that we are done, then only the screen will, then only this grammar will be sent to you. Clear everybody? Okay. And please note, this is not going to be possible unless and until you go through the video, because I cannot believe in plain teaching. That's my simple request to everybody. So make sure that you go through the video well, and then we will get back to it. Okay, everybody? Yes. Thank you so much, all of you. Okay. It was pleasure teaching to me in this fashion, as pleasure teaching to you all in this fashion as well. Whenever time permits, I can send you such videos so that we can save our valuable time in the eventual lectures. Okay, everybody? Thank you so much. Have your food, everyone. Good night. Take care. And bye bye, all of you.